Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room.
My name is John Williams, and I'm a casting director. And today we have Steven on your answer machine. You said OGG, Steven Ogg. Currently, I got this off of your bio. So if this ain't up to date, this is off of your site. So
I'll tell you right now. Oh, off my site, it might be okay. Because Wikipedia, apparently anyone can fucking do anything. So there's a lot of lies out there.
No, for sure. I read these and people are like, man, I never was in that. I never did that show.
Well, we'll get into this. What people think versus the reality. Yeah. There's a big fucking gulf.
So currently appears in the BBC's new critically acclaimed TV show Boiling Point, based on the hit film starring Stephen Graham. Stephen is best known for playing Simon in AMC's The Walking Dead, Rebus, HBO's Westworld, Sobchak in another AMC hit, Better Call Saul, Pike in TNT's Snowpiercer, and also played Captain Howard in Apple TV's movie Emancipation, which I had a lot of friends on that. That was a great, great movie. Stephen has a global notoriety for his role as Trevor in the video game GTA V. In 2022-2023, Stephen has had a variety of roles in many forthcoming indie features: Blind River, Dark Match, Hazard, The Dresden Sun, The Ghost Trap, Scared Shitless, and most recently, Rap Consciousness. I like the fact that you didn't, on your site, you hit shit. Stephen grew up doing theater in his hometown. Alberta, Canada, before traveling to study in Europe and New York City, where he resided for 20 years before relocating to sunny South Pasadena, California. His poetry collection, I fucked it up. I knew I was going to fuck it up.
Why'd you fucking ask me if you're going to fuck it up anyway?
Catharsis. Will debut in 2024 by the UK-based publisher Pegasus, have you ever heard of them? And he is collaborating on a theatrical production in Ireland. I also did a deep dive on your blog, Ogg, which I thought was awesome. I was very touched by my side always, despite the great distance that comes between us. Are there any other creatures that can be so far apart physically yet feel as close as I do to you? And that was with your dad, and that was a beautiful moment. I also want to say on the blog, Ogg, I like your eye, man. You got some great shots. Until I got to bone at the very deep at the beginning, and I saw your toe. I saw your bone of your toe. I think it was your toe.
It looked like an eyeball, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, man. I didn't know it. You have it hidden, and I was like, it can't be that bad. And then I was like, God damn.
Well, because probably nowadays you'd get kicked off fucking Instagram because, it's the police state where you can't post anything like naked or gross But violence is okay, kids.
Yes, totally. Yeah, and you have some really beautiful shots and writings and poetry, man. It's really, really nice. I enjoyed doing a deep dive on that. And then
I appreciate that. I haven't been on the blog, Ogg, in ages. I started it as a side shoot, knowing that, I think a lot of people don't even read the writing that I sort of curate on my Instagram, because it's become this sort of art installation process for me, or just actually it's my creative boil that I need to squeeze because I'm not working or I'm not doing something. I need to read. It's part of my process. But the blog, Ogg, I started is just like, okay, for anyone that fucking actually loves words and can explore it, here it is. But then I got into actually doing the books, and that became my outlet. And then I also, again, got to do whatever you want. No one gives a fuck. And it doesn't matter. Read it if you want. Don't read it.
See, that's what's so great, right? Is that you're just creating to create, right? There's the what's his name, the music producer, and he's talking about that. You're just creating to create, and it's for nobody else but you. And that's where I think all the beauty lies, man. We do all this work for other people. It's like you need that outlet, right, to just solely express yourself.
Well, it's just part of. Yeah, I mean, I'm. Actually, I was talking to Ronnie about this the other day. Life is, I'm very blessed and very grateful. So I always sort of have to say that.
We all have to preface it that before we start bitching about things.
Well, that's exactly it. Because here goes. Now I'm going to fucking bitch.
Yeah. Well, okay. Now we can get into the fucking internet and we can get into technology.
No, but it's like I do. I do have one hand on my heart, which is it above my liver?
It's inner
Wherever
thigh, baby. Inner thigh.
Okay. So my one hand on my inner thigh
Yeah.
and one hand reaching. But I'm point being is that creativity, and that for me it's acting. That's my numero uno. But then there's all sorts of, it's words, it's art, it's all of this stuff that is my creative lifeblood. So I just say I'm grateful first because I truly am, and I have such a wonderful life, and I'm so happy. And I have actually never been happier in my life, having been through a lot of pain and torment, as we all do in life. But um, I just say that because I do know it's just I wake up like my girlfriend can wake up in grateful love mode, which I just respect so much. I usually wake up going, "What the fuck today? Like, what do I got to do?" And so my process is creative. And as soon as I, do my reading or some writing or create something and spin for an hour and a half and do some yoga, then the day's looking okay.
Yeah.
Then it's like, but that's part of my process.
I get it. So let's get into it. Let's get into that pain and misery and how this started and how you got into this. Like, I don't know a lot about your journey, so I'd love to get to hear about it.
Well, okay, try to keep it in a nutshell so we can then sort of go off on tangents wherever we would like. So I acted as a child in Calgary, which I only say at Calgary. Everyone else, even from Calgary, says Calgary, but I say Calgary.
And where's that from? Well, why is that?
No fucking idea. Can't answer it. My mom, like everyone else, says, "Why do you say it that way?" My friends from there, no one else says it that way. No idea. But
and then you say, "Do what you want." No one gives a fuck.
No, that's what I thought. Let's keep that there.
Yeah.
So I did as and usually I think one of my last podcasts I did, my mother was visiting here, and I tend to either not purposefully lie, but make something up, and then I say it enough that I'm like,
I do that about my child. Yeah, about growing up. Like it's like you have these memories or these visions, and they seem real, but I have to fact check with my mom. I'm like, did this happen? She's like, no, it didn't fucking happen.
And my mom is great with, like, bless her, at 83, and she still looks in her 60s. She can remember dates. I can't remember. I can't tell you if it was last week or 2 years ago, and that's through this forced Buddhism of life. That's also part of the creative process, which we can get in once we hit chapter 2 of this conversation.
I mean, no, you're in the ether, right? You're pulling ideas, and so you don't really live necessarily in the day to day, and you have markers, right? Because it's like we're kind of floating in this creative sort of like transcendental, meditation. David Lynch talks about it. We're kind of pulling these ideas, and we're always, I think, somewhat tapped into that or connected to it,
And it's also without, and certainly in my case, with no schedule or no point of reference. It's just, it happened or it didn't. And I can't tell you when.
Or it didn't happen and you made something else up.
That's true. In my case. So to the story with the first performance I remember is dressing as Betty Boop. My mother's British, so I spent sort of summers in Britain. And so I dressed as Betty Boop in drag in elementary school. And I was always telling people, I don't know why. They're like, I don't, my family's not in any kind of entertainment or arts. And it wasn't until my mother was here, and I think it might have been Ronnie's podcast, actually. That fucker's going to come around a lot in this conversation. So he said, "How did it happen?" And I went, "You know what? My mom's here. Let me go fact check this." So I brought the computer down. This was back when I had internet, not a fax machine that we're fucking talking on now. But I came down and I was like, "Mom, why did I do this?" Because to me, it was something I had just sort of, being a creative mind at such a tender age. She's like, no. Your kindergarten teacher, Mrs. Prasos, suggested that to you. All these years I've been taking credit for dressing in drag. So it's Mrs. Praso. So I dressed in that, and that I think really got my, it wasn't even the attention I got. It was just the performance bug.
And you think just being in different skin, or like, do you think it was just like even maybe the reaction that you got for the shock or the?
Well, it's because I've never been one, like, especially with acting, I don't believe, I'm not a method actor. I don't believe in that. I believe it's pretend and it's acting, and how fucking lucky to pretend you're someone else. And like on the gram, I've been creating these little characters after reading a book or a character from something that I want to create. It's just about creating a character. It's not about escaping. I don't want to escape a great life. I had a great childhood. There was nothing I needed to escape from. It was more just that sense of playing. People have their thing, whatever kind of gets them feeling alive.
Yeah, you just felt the make-believe.
I just felt that like, so I kind of went through that, and then
and there was nobody in your family that what do they do? Like, what do your parents do?
No, like my mom was pretty much a stay-at-home mom.
Yeah.
My dad was a systems analyst, which to this day,
you don't know what that is.
I remember doing a book report in, elementary school where I had to interview him and write about it. From that point on, I still can't answer what he does. And I don't think he could. I mean, he's now not my dad. He's, dementia, and he's on his own journey through it all.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that with the videos that I saw. It's so tender and sweet, and you just, the love that you have for him, it comes across in these videos.
He's a beautiful man.
Yeah.
He was a great father, and he, just supported me. And there was no lessons about automobiles or sports or how to throw a football or kick a ball. No, he was not that kind of man.
And no judgment as far as like, you got to, like, like a lot of us face, like you got to have something to fall back on, or you got to get a real job, or like, that's amazing.
The only reason I swear I'm here today is because my father said, go. When I had the opportunity to go to Europe, he just said, go. You'll always have school. You'll always have work. And I think that was because it was coming from a man who supported us, who gave us a nice, solid middle-class existence in Calgary. Certainly in a job he hated.
He said, you can always be a system analyst. Go to Europe, man.
Yeah, exactly. You can always do that. So he was just always like supportive, and just, bless him. He kind of gave everything for my mom and for me and my sister, for his family.
That was my mom too, man. Yep.
Didn't have friends, never went out. So yeah, I love him. And so, now my father with dementia, and he's not my father anymore. He's this other version, because you lose, with dementia, Alzheimer's, you lose them sort of quite quickly, I find, in the initial diagnosis, when they're just acting differently. And then it becomes a different version. And now, he's wheelchair bound, and I FaceTime when my sister's there, and I say hi and I love you. And the other day he said, love you too, which, just as soon as I said bye, I just started bawling, because I remember him once pre-dementia saying, because I'm very emotional. So I'd always be like, fuck, Dad, what do I got to do to get you to react? And I said something about, you've never said I love you. And he said, yeah, but I do, right? And it's such a generational thing, right? I was like, no, but I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for, like, say you love me. So anyways, wonderful man, and just always supportive, which included going back to the theater as a child, driving me to the theater. So I did that.
So you knew like that Betty Boop, you were like, man, this is it. I'm going to join the carnival. I'm in.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
I just loved it.
Yeah.
So I kind of did all that, and then eventually got to a point where, like, I had within a year. So I never studied, like in school. I never did drama. And in high school, coming up to high school now, Peter Spear, who's also an artistic director of a local theater, he kind of had me, even though I didn't take acting class in high school, he had me audition, and I was pretty much like, it looked like I could get into RADA. This is when I was in high school, and he had this connection, and so I was like thinking, maybe I'll go to London, go to school, theater school, wonderful. And I think it was within a year, he died, and then also this dancing teacher that I used to go to killed himself. So within a short period of time, the creative people in my life, I lost them, and I just kind of I switched, and I went, I'm sick of being just okay at everything. I'm just going to focus on one thing. So I focused on sports, and I focused on volleyball. And I said, I'm going to be a great volleyball player. But I was too short,
Random sport to be like to dig your heels in on.
Well, I've been playing it. Like I was,
Yeah, I know, but still, it's just like
sports.
it's like most baseball. I mean, I guess I'm American, so it's like volleyball might be I just think it's a funny one to dig your heels in on.
Well, and for me, growing up where I grew up, it's all hockey,
Yeah.
Calgary, and wrestling. It's where Stampede Wrestling and the entire Hart Foundation, and like I grew up with those wrestlers.
Yeah.
Dynamite Kid and Davey Boy Smith and all of these people. But no, I was into volleyball, but I was too short, and I was the runt of the team, which I think one sportscaster announced as I went on at one point. So it sort of I tried that, and then ended up getting injured, which was great because I was always going to be on the bench. I was always going to be behind the all stars. And then I had this opportunity to go to Toronto because of my ass. And I continue to have a great ass. I know my weaknesses, and I know what I'm good at, and neither the two shall meet. But our coach was asked who has a great butt, because we've got this thing called Best Buns, which was the food section, but they wanted an ass in jeans with breadsticks in the pocket. Like that's, the creativity of Calgary knows no bounds. So that's how I went to the Calgary Herald. I shot this picture, and then someone was there, and he's a fashion guy who's an agency, and said, "Are you here for the modeling thing?" And I was, at this point I was like 210. I was muscular, because I wasn't tall enough. So I'm going to have big muscles. So no. He said, "Oh, could I take some pictures of you?" Sure. The next day in the middle of winter, shirt off, ice. I like water on my chest, which froze. So it looks like dripping water, but it was actually icicles. Sent them to Toronto. Toronto said, "Do you want to come for the summer?" So this was before my second year of university. I went. I lived in the apartment with 4 like top models in Canada. This is many.
I've never guessed that you got into this because of modeling.
Well, I was doing it before, right? So I was doing acting before, but then that got me to Toronto, and then I was on one of those, wasn't Calvin Klein, but it was like those underwear boxes.
Yeah.
Which was perfect because it was, it was just this, which is perfect, right?
Yeah.
Like you don't want to have faith. So that took me to Europe. And then, so it just began sort of my, I call them like these Buster Keaton, Dostoevsky travels. Like, a lot of darkness in me, a lot of creativity in me, but also a jackass. So I ended up living in Europe for 5-6 years.
Doing the circuit out there, doing the modeling circuit, or?
No.
Okay.
I got bad acne when I was there. I grew a beard. All the friends were models, which of course all became, some of them, quite famous actors.
Yeah.
Which always pleases me because they have it tough enough as gorgeous people.
I have friends that are models, and I'm like, what do you do? Like, what do you literally do besides like just hit the DNA lotto?
And some of, it was, and they were all, I remember leaving Paris, and I was given, I won't name the successful actress, and wonderful, she's wonderful, gave me Angels in America, the play, Tony Kushner's play, and said, "You need to get to New York. You need to go back to acting. Like you are just."
They're watching. They see you probably creating and yeah.
So I moved to New York from Paris with no working papers, with like 500.
I'm enjoying this movie. Oh, this sounds like a good movie.
It's pretty wild. Like actually, I mean, I've really been, especially when you think, like, fuck, some of the experiences I had because of the models I was surrounded by were pretty crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, and being with a lot of them at that time who became supermodels or famous actors and all of this, it was pretty amazing. So that took me to New York, not a pot to piss in, doing whatever work I could back in the fax machine days where, you'd fax because I had you get a temporary social security number with work with INS authorization only or something on the bottom, but you could fax it. And for some reason, that bottom part would never come out. You'd just get the number. And they'd be like, it cut off the bottom of the card. I'd be like, fucking technology. Similar to today, but not the fax machine. So I'd just be like, fuck, I don't know what happened. I'm so sorry. But they would hire me anyways. And this is for cater waitering, doing whatever.
Yeah.
So that thus began, and then going to acting class. And
who all did you study? Who all did you go to, or who did you find a home at in New York?
I really, the person I studied with most was Ellen Savage.
Mm-hmm.
And Ellen Savage ended up, that's where I met Garrett Dillahunt. I met Norm Lewis, Kim Cattrall. Kim Cattrall and I once talked about doing Miss Julie together, which I thought that would have been fascinating. So he was kind of Broadway's Mr. Fix-It. So there's always this competition of musical theater people being not actors.
Yeah.
And then us actors. So that sort of began my 20 years in New York, which, you know, back in those days, it was all separate. And it was, you were a theater actor, yep, commercial actor, TV actor, or film.
Yep.
No.
And there was only one way. It was to get into commercials and then get into TV and then get into film. Like you didn't jump around.
No.
And that's I guess that's where you the Old Spice, that's where that sort of came from, was like, okay, I'm sick of bartending. I'm going to get into the commercial game, because that's where everyone, I mean, that's where I started. It's where you get your access.
Well, that came, like, I remember I was very fortunate in New York. Like, I did book early on some commercials, and I did a lot of voiceover.
So, and with no real audition training, like how was that process, learning how to be in the room and how to audition? Did you find it fairly, like, you adapted to it pretty easily, or you understood the game pretty quick?
Well, those were the days, right? Like, I just recently ran into someone who I knew from New York. I was doing a short film, and it was her house that was being rented for this
random
film.
Yeah.
We were both like, holy fuck. It took me a bit to, like, recognize. She was like all over, like, yeah, I remember. And then it clicked. Holy fuck. From those days in New York, it was this group, and we would just travel around, audition to audition, be it commercial, a TV, and 10 auditions a day. And I'd cycle around New York, and you'd see each other, and it was wonderful. And
you go with other people. You go with other people because maybe you could get in, right? You're like, okay, I'll go to that room. Maybe I can sign in. Maybe I can get a shot. Yeah.
It was a community.
Yeah.
Right. We don't have a community anymore. No. There's not that community.
We got fucking technology.
Yeah, we got AI. I'm like, let's keep things like this, because I'm like, if I start going down that fucking dark rabbit hole, not necessarily the technology, but the state of the business. Yeah. When Ronnie brought this up, I was like, that sometimes I don't like a lot of things. Like, talk about casting director. Man, I haven't been a casting director in fucking years.
Yeah. We're two peas in a pod. Trust me, I fucking hate it too.
But it's, there was something wonderful, and actually, what got me through in New York, I was never comfortable in the room. It was my anger. Like, it's like PIL's "Anger is an Energy" song. Yeah. I had a lot of piss and vinegar in me, and I still have this sort of 12-year-old rebellious fuck you thing in me,
which can play, right, in the right roles in the room. It can play, and plus, it's like, if it's real, right, it is effective. I think when we're auditioning people, it's like, man, this guy.
I wouldn't always use it in the audition so much as I would use it to get me sought. Mail delivery. So here it goes.
Here we go.
Good boy, love. So it was more about the survival. For me, the anger was always a survival mechanism to deal with the rejection.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like I'd go in all like, but it was just so I could survive. And it's still, to this day something.
Would you, because I used to do a thing is that I would just beat the crap out of myself, right? Because it's like, you can't hurt me. You can't reject me. I already told myself how bad I am. Like, I've, yeah. And so you get angry and you're like, fuck you. I know I sucked.
I know I sucked? Back then, I think it was more just like, fuck you for judging me.
Yeah.
Like, who gives you the power to judge me?
Yeah.
It was more of that.
Yeah.
And then, especially then, when it was those initial auditions for the New York auditions, the Law and Order, the Third Watch, the soap operas, the whatever it was, and when it would be a few lines, and you're just like, what? How am I supposed to do anything with this?
Yeah.
Like, do you respect the actor or the craft? And some of them did, and those obviously, like, we quickly can count casting directors that we bonded with because of
They
their.
understood I mean, I understand because I went through it, right? So I understand what you're going through and what it's like to sit in that room and come in and have 2 lines and try to make something of it when they're not even paying attention, and like, yeah.
And they're all doing this and
Yeah.
doing that, and which, now translates to the same thing with self-tapes. I mean, I've been in Video Village on a show or whatnot when someone gets the
link,
iPad
yeah,
open up and they're doing this and they're scrolling through for the next guest star or whatever. And they're like, oh, no, okay. Because that's kind of the business. Like, they just have to find someone that reminds me of this person. It's tough. It's very tough. But so yeah, that's the gist, and that's what sort of then got me to start working.
And so, but what did that transition of like sort of getting through and starting to work? Was there anything that you figured out, you think, or it was just sort of time and getting more comfortable, or?
In what?
In regards to like just starting a book, like what everyone's always asking me, right? What's the secret? And I'm like, dude, if I fucking knew, I would tell you. I don't know.
Yeah, like, I still don't know because I've had not a lot of opportunities lately. I seem to be in this creating my own opportunities phase of my life, which is just part of the grind. But I've had a few auditions. I haven't had a lot of auditions. And the ones I haven't booked. Yeah. So I'm sort of like,
and are you in that zone too now where you're doing self tapes? Are you going in? I mean, you probably do get offers, right? Just get people. No, you still having to do the dance for everybody.
I mean, I shouldn't say no, because I've done a lot of indie films that were offered to me, but like, indies, not A24 indie, right? A24 is no longer an indie. Like that's what I would love.
Studio, yeah. Okay, well, I'll work on it. I'll be back.
That's what it's been, like Steven Young, who's a neighbor, and bless him, and he's such a love. But like that, that's what I'm grinding for. And like, I'm heading to Ireland next week, and I was messaging Benjamin Myers, who's a friend, who's a brilliant writer, did the Gallows Pole. His books are incredible, but they've been made into film. Well, actually, Helena Bonham Carter is doing one of his books. They've just finished filming. So I just messaged him because I was like, I'm going to be in Dublin. I'm going to Ireland next week for, do you know anyone at Element Pictures? Element Pictures is, again, all of Yorgos's work. And I have all these production companies in Iceland because did you see Godland? Mm-hmm. Those are that's what excites me, those films. I've never been excited by superhero films, or I read a lot. I read more than I watch. I love to act and I love to perform. And that's where I come from, as opposed to, I want to be in that film or this project. It's more just, that's why I've done 2 short films, because I just love
moved by the material. Yeah, the material. So if the material comes and it moves you, you're into it.
And it's not like, again, I don't have this. It's, again, this huge canyon, this difference of what people think and assume with me for the reality. It's huge. I don't, like, people can't believe, even if it's a Norman Reedus or, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, when I was talking to him, and they're like, what? You had to read for that? I was like, no, I had to audition for that. What are you talking about? You should be getting offers. Yeah, I should. And I don't mind auditioning, but then I'm not even booking those. So I'm like, oh, what the fuck do I just?
And you're getting sucked into doing the self tapes, right?
Yeah, which I don't mind. Like, again, I recently did one and I was so proud of it.
Yeah.
But
I feel like with everything I see that you create online, that you're probably really good at and probably have a lot of fun with it, I do. And I go above and beyond. Yeah.
But I also, I don't slate.
Yeah.
I still am that rebellious 12-year-old saying, I'm not going to take myself out. If I'm going to give you something, I want to show you I know the world.
Yeah. Well, this is
it
what I
worked
always
for
say
Wes.
too. I'm always like, they're like, what kind of backdrop? I'm like, I don't give a fuck about your backdrop. Just bring me some humanity. Bring me some, bring me something that's original and it's part of you. That's what I want. Like if you don't slate, I don't give, I don't care. Like, like if you do it in a car and it's good, that's all I want. I just want to
Well,
see.
I'm about the material. Again, why I read. So I'm a lover of words, and I'm also a lover of making a big choice. And a big choice, like again, when you used to go into the room, great example is Sharon Bialy, who that was for Better Call Saul and The Walking Dead in the room. And I don't mind. I don't care if it's in the room or self tape. I really don't. It's doesn't make a difference to me.
This is the sandbox we're in today. This is the sandbox I'm playing in. If it's
Yeah,
yeah.
it doesn't matter. But with that, the difference being, and actually, even this goes back to House of Cards. But it was again going and making a big
Yep.
choice, and then having someone there kind of going, okay, interesting, wrong, like just
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
what the
Not what we're
story
going
is.
for.
So let's do it again, but here's a few things you should know. Oh, now a good actor and a good casting director, just like a good director or all these people, should be able to communicate effectively and be able to change it. Some can't. Some actors have their zone and that's all they can do. But with a good relationship with a casting director, and if they know you're a good actor, that's the whole point of it, is you make an adjustment and you just, then the scene comes alive, or then it even makes more sense or whatever.
But
So
it seems like from watching your work and kind of reviewing some stuff this week, those bigger choices, and it seems like you're having so much fun, and those bigger choices get to make it. It's like you're getting to they make it through. It seems like a lot of times.
well, that's also, yeah. I mean, I've been given like a lot of times these opportunities with these characters, and if people like have a through line with, because the characters you're known for are not obviously all the characters you do. Like
Dude,
these six indie films.
Emancipation. Fuck, dude, that guy.
That was fun.
Yeah.
And that was again like, yeah. I mean, initially I was wanting the Ben Foster role.
Yeah.
And I love Ben, and he's terrific. But I wanted, because I wanted a bigger part,
Yeah.
obviously. But I also thought that character should have been my stature more, like a fucking guy that you just stand in front of and not really want to fuck with. But that was fun too, to bring that. But all these things, I think it's more bringing, it's not wanting to create as many options as possible for essentially for the production.
Mm-hmm.
So these bigger choices allow for, is he good? Is he bad? It's not always applicable to every character. But for some of those, that's what sort of resonated, and those became the ones that I was known for. But, again, doing these indie films and like playing the sheriff in a small town in Indiana that helps the blind woman. Love it. Playing the dad who's, bringing his son.
Yeah, it seems like you've been searching out, different colors to play for sure.
And will these ever be seen? Who knows, right? These are small films. We're getting this premiere on this wrestling one I did.
Yeah.
But you never know.
You never know. But also too, at the end, for
right.
me in my career now, it's about the making and the people and the doing. It's like, people pay attention for a week or two, maybe about something, and then it's like it's gone, and it's like, so it's like the whole process is what, is the material and who am I working with, and what's the crew, what's the collaboration, and who are we bringing to, we're all carnies. We should come up, we set the thing up, we do the little show, and we break it down and we leave, and that's to me is the fun part.
Yeah, and the play, for me, again, I just love to play. I'm my friend and I made this little short film that, again, I don't create those enough. Like when I'm talking to acting schools or giving interviews, or young actors, like I'm going to be in Galway at the University of Galway when we're in Ireland, talking with a writer who we're developing, hopefully, if we get funding, this theatrical project. But I know young actors will ask, what's your advice? And I've always gave the advice of, you got to get involved. You got to do it yourself. Just do it yourself. I never really did. But now, you know, as I'm closer to death than to life, in just a natural, people hate when I say this, but I'm like, just a numbers game, man.
Yeah.
God forbid any of us could die at any time, any age, it doesn't matter. But it's more just, you know, when you lean on the back half of life, where I'm now.
I'm feeling it for sure. And I tell people all the time, I'm like, I got maybe 30 summers, you know, and they're like, don't say that. And I'm like, well, it's true.
And also I'd rather have that. And so now I'm just like, I'm trying, just now I am grinding,
Yeah.
trying to fucking reach out, get book rights, get all this stuff. But then I keep hitting the wall of, whoop, now what? You know, huh, now what? I've got all these people that want to, even I was messaging Samantha Morton, who I love, who just won BAFTA, Lifetime Achievement Award. You know, I'd love to work together on something. Great. Me too. Yeah. So it's great, but it's frustrating. And like everyone, you're so great, you won't have any problems. Well, then
I know the struggles that I'm trying to help them raise financing and get things off the ground. Like it's not, no one, you know, I just don't, I think that is the misconception is that, I mean, maybe somebody has it easy, you know, but for the most part, it seems like that is part of that creative process of like getting commerce to support us to go create art, you know, and create, you know, stuff that we believe has value.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, it's sadly, you know, a lot of times the first thing is cut is funding for the arts, right? When it's more, it's always been important, but it's more important than ever, especially with the way things are in the world and the divisive nature of the world and how we can't say anything without offending someone at some point somewhere. It's becoming more important, more and more important to fucking have expression, you know, to offend. How do you grow if you aren't offended by something? And why are you offended by it? And what upsets you about it? And what disturbs you or turns you on or makes you happy or makes you cry? That's what makes you a better person, is to question. And it's just, it seems like we're just fucking getting so stupid. Not, you know, everyone, but fuck me. It's like, come on, you know, we need it so much. We need that funding. And again, when, you know, when you look at some of these deals being made, or like, you know, reading about the Roadhouse movie, you know, them getting the 25 million as a sort of, we're going to stream it. And I know you're not happy, but here we go. Here's $25 million. That's just like they have the 25 million.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix has 50 million to you know, get at Sundance. I'll give you 17 million for this film that we want. There's money. It's just, where is it and how it's allocated? And there's so much money out there in this world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the haves and have-nots are so far apart. But it's like, that's what blows me away, is that there can't be just a little more allocation of those funds, a little more.
Or just somehow there's someone that is in control or behind it and they're pushing it in the right direction. Like why not? You know, like, don't you see the value? You know, I don't know.
And it's also, I find it interesting. Like, you know, I was talking to producer Georgios, who did Triangle of Sadness, Inside with Willem Dafoe. You know, I've been in talks with him of like reaching out, and I'm at that point. Like after a couple times, after reaching out, then I start to feel like a bit of a, well, I use a word that it's not really loved in America so much, but you can imagine, like, you know, see you next Tuesday. But you start to feel like one after reaching out so many times. But
you just have to say it with like a English accent, I think, and you'll be fine.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whenever you say that word, or in like in Britain and in Ireland and in Scotland, it's charming.
It's charming.
Unfortunately, I say it a lot.
Yeah. So we're one. You're probably not. I mean, we're gonna talk after this for sure about some of this stuff. But also, where do you think this creative force is coming from? This sort of like energy. Do you think it is because it's just sort of like looking at the back nine and being like, man, I got to output, or do you feel like it's what's the drive? Where's the drive coming from to do this?
I tell you what, I have honestly, for better for worse, haven't really changed. Like you know, I still feel the same passion. that I had for it, I still get very excited about. Like, I'm surrounded by books and like all of the, whoops, it's my thumb, like just art books.
Yeah.
I just read so much. Did I just, am I yelling? Sorry, everybody. My greasy thumb playing with passion fruit while I'm doing a podcast.
I just changed the name to Playing with My Thumbs Passion Fruit Podcast.
Playing with my passion fruit, starring Steven Ogg. I got a wrinkly one and I got a nice, sweet, shiny one, kid. Ooh, what's she going to play with today? I mean, again, it doesn't like it's part my process. It keeps me, like I said, like it's part of my lifeblood.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that it's not frustrating, and it doesn't mean that I have tears and frustrations, or I'm luckily not so destructive as I used to be with just either personally or breaking shit with my anger. Although if my girlfriend was here, she'd probably say that's not true, but she's not here, so we're going to say it is true. But that's why, like, I've got my room, my Peloton and my yoga and my books in the morning with my coffee. And I have a routine that I have to do. So here we go. Our poor post.
Is Sod a cougar?
Thank you. It's not.
Is Sod a mountain lion?
Good content here, folks. After playing with passion fruit, we like to eat mailmen. Good boy, Sot. Thank you, love. Thanks, Bib. Good. Thank you. Sorry about that.
You found a little bit of balance outside of having your dog kill the mailman.
Come here, Russ. Get over here. Good boy. Yeah, it's something that it's part of, like, these other things I need to do. And
I mean, I saw something with Dennis Hopper the other day saying, if you can do anything else, do it. He goes, if you have to create because there's just no other way for you to get through life, then this is for you. And it sounds like that's what it is for you. Like, you have no other way to be able to exist within any happiness that you can probably find, which with all this stuff to balance it out, the creative force is just so alive in you.
It's just, like I said, I get up, and that's what, my Instagram has become this. Listen, if I was working, if I was shooting, I wouldn't need my Instagram. I'd still enjoy it, but I really need it as I use it as my creative outlet, because I do, like, even reading this Ice Palace book, or like when I did something the other day, it's this Western, the Pop 1280, Jim Thompson, who I've never read Jim Thompson any more than this other one that Yorgos is actually supposed to be doing, this Western that I read. So I see these things, and then I pick up the books to read it, to let me just see what this is all about. And then I'm like, holy fuck, like, they're supposed to be making this into a film. So I do my whole thing of, like, let me read it. And I'm like, oh my God, what a great character. And it could be like, there's this other one I want to do this weekend based on a Turkish book. Because I become friends with authors and musicians more than actors. Like even Warren Ellis, who I just love and adore. We've become, we chat, and his father recently passed away from dementia, but we connected over that. Anoni, who I just love, and Anoni and I message. I'm like, because I'm always thinking, okay, if I have a project, I would love to collaborate. Same thing with writers. All these writers I've become friends with, and publishing companies that will send me some books now. So I read them and I get excited. I'm like, fuck, I want to create this character. Whoa. Well, you know what, Steven? Fucking create it. Do it. Like I said, squeeze the boil. You know what? Feel better. I'm like, okay, I acted today. I also worked out, right? As an artist, that's part of my workout, is to create, to take the words off the page, to read them, to create a character. And a lot of it is a one take fucking boom. I don't spend my day editing, creating. I'm just like, boom.
It seems like too. It starts building a trust, right? It starts building a trust for your instincts, right? And start really honing in and sort of defining that connection between the ideas and then the physical and getting it out. And I can see that being way more productive than sitting in an acting class for 3.5 hours watching other people act.
Well, I'm for that too.
I am too. I'm just saying I can see how both really, could be effective.
This is part of what I tell, and this is something I do, as opposed to everything else that I tell them to do that I don't. I've often said that. Do as I say, not as I do.
This is great advice for fucking somebody.
Yes. Someone out there do it. I'm fucking not, because I'm still 12 years old and saying fuck you to the system and to everyone.
Yeah.
No, but it's the baptism by fire. If you record yourself doing something, and I generally do it by myself, like, my girlfriend, who's amazing and wonderful and supportive, she's like, do you want help? I'm like, I might try to balance the phone on a certain thing, and I go down and I light some candles, and I just kind of do it all myself, again, as a baptism by fire to do something and to get it done. And you learn, it works, it doesn't. And sometimes I'll do something and I'm like, that's stupid. But sometimes I'll put it out there and I sort of strategically tag companies. And listen, does it work? I have to say
it works, man. It works for you. It gives you peace, right? It gives you it squeezes the boil.
It squeezes the boil, but I also do it like I have to say, the Boiling Point, the BBC show, that was me. That was my grind. No one got that for me. That was me reaching out to Philip after seeing Boiling Point. Huge fan of Stephen Graham, obviously. That was me just reaching out and saying, after I saw that film, loved it, cried my eyes out. And then and this has happened with some producers, and because this is like, I just want to meet producers. I want to meet teams of people.
It's how it works. It's how you get work, man. It's all relationships. It's all relationships.
And it's so fucked now because I have this notoriety where people like know me for whatever.
Yeah.
But I have sort of this.
Listen, I sit on the calls, man. I sit on the calls and we just go through names, and everyone has ideas. And it's, and it's like, if you're not top of mind and they're not, you don't come in those conversations. It's not that you're a bad actor or a good actor. It's just doesn't come into the mix,
So you have to like grind.
Yep.
That's part of the grind, reaching out.
Yep.
Like with Philip, that's what
you have to be a see you next Tuesday.
Yeah. Well, and it's the way you do it too.
Yeah.
And sometimes like
100%.
Who was it saying you just keep? Oh, it was Cillian. Cillian Murphy was talking about how who was it? I think it was with Edna when he first started, when he was doing Disco Pigs, maybe. Yeah. But just reaching out.
Yeah.
Frances McDormand, she wrote letters to all of the directors, including her husband, of who she wanted to work with. Well, can't really. I'd love to write letters. I've sent books to some people when I knew their the production company's address, and I went nowhere. Now, and I'm only on Instagram. I don't do the Twitter or Facebook. Can't fucking.
Well, TikTok does a live thing, which could be interesting, and I would watch you TikTok live. That'd be fun because it like you could just sit on TikTok live and read some of your book or other stuff. That could be interesting.
Well, that's what I do with Instagram.
Instagram live, yeah.
Do a lot of reading, just literally.
You do it live, the live stuff, or?
I haven't done it live in a while because I just can't. I'm not good at multitasking. I become very myopic.
Well, that's when you need the girlfriend. You got to get the crew in. You got to get the girlfriend.
But if I see people commenting,
totally
just like
distracting.
I'm like, it's about the words or it's about this.
I get
you. It's not about your fucking comments because I don't really care. I could talk after.
Yeah.
But this is more about squeezing the boil.
Yeah.
But so the reaching out, like with Philip, worked, and with Steven, we just ended up. It became a gradual, a lot of hey claps and heart. That's my heart emoji. Did I get that right?
I think it's more MS-13, but yeah.
For the kids at home, look at what Steven can create, a heart. You should see my fucking shadow puppets. But it was
with your passion fruit.
Yeah, my passion fruit project. It worked. And he called and said, "Hey, Steven and I have this part we want to write for you."
Yeah.
It's like, But cool. I mean, anything in Europe, I'm like, I miss it. And I
For
love
sure, man.
California.
I pick films sometimes just based on the hopes that it can get into the European festivals because I want to go. you know, like I'm like, I mean, I'm happy when we get into anything, but I'm like, we're going to Venice. This is awesome.
Yeah, I just love, again, my mom being British, and I spent 3 months in Manchester shooting Boiling Point. I had done a film there before in York.
And you got this. You got something going right in Dublin, Ireland. You're going.
Well, the Irish thing is, again, from a writer.
Yeah.
It's a book, and it's a character Tag in the book, which is great because Tag is spelled Tadhg. So when you first read that, you're like, "What the fuck is this name?" But he's Tag, and he builds currachs. Currachs are basically like almost like a canoe. And he teaches at a school. And so a year ago, again, this is how it started. I was visiting my mom where she grew up in Norfolk. They still have the family house. Her sister, my aunt, lives there. And my granddad's old wood shed has changed, but it's still there. I had just finished Elaine Feeney's book, How to Build a Boat, and this character of Tag just, again, was resonating in me. So with the boil, not wanting to get that infected, Steven's got to squeeze it. So I took from the book passage and I went into my granddad's workshop, which has a lot of obviously emotional memory for me with growing up there and spending time in it. And so I just did this sort of a quick off the cuff one take of Tag sort of talking to a child outside. And, you said you're going to do it. Da, 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 da. Elaine, the author, that was wonderful. And also, how did you get that? Because it's a Galway, the west coast of Ireland, there's such different accents everywhere, as everywhere in Europe. She said, I love that. Thus began. Well, I've been wanting to do similar to Cillian Murphy, what he's done with like Max Porter, with Edna Walsh, like Mr. Man. I saw at St. Anne's Warehouse. That's part of my goal, right? I want to do something that goes to, starts in Dublin, goes to the West End in London, and then goes to St. Anne's, because St. Anne's in Brooklyn, as well as the Park Armory, one of my favorite, which is how I connected with Anoni, who used to be Anthony, but is now Anoni, did the life and death of Marina Abramovich at the Park Armory. 15 years ago, I saw this. Willem Dafoe was the narrator, all doing his Wooster group, hair red, running around the stage. And then Marina was staging her own funeral, did all of her sort of bits. And then Anthony at the time sang Cut the World in this beautiful black gown, a cappella. 15 years still gives me goosebumps. So I messaged with Honey about it. And then we've become, sending you love. I love you. I love your new album. I love you. I love you. Let's collaborate. Let's work on something. So these projects I'm trying to get going, this book, this thing I'm getting right. I have a director who's interested. They're like, yeah, I'd love to collaborate on something. Me too, but it's not together yet.
I get it, dude. I get it.
But it excites me.
Yeah. Like, I know this. I know this energy really well. I have stuff I'm so excited about, and I've been fighting for years. I'm just like, it's just, I get it.
And it's tough because it's not even about, you got to love the process. I fucking love the process.
Yeah.
But I also love the doing. Like, I want these things to come to fruition.
The baby's got to come out. You got to give birth.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. And that's the balance of that. Like, that's why I did an hour and a half on the Peloton this morning. And I'm not like I don't have my book like, I'm fucking like a goddamn machine on this thing.
Yeah. Where's the teacher with the Metallica?
I go off. It's usually where I'll check the ground, but I need that.
Yeah.
To get out. That's my evil coming out. The yoga. I need to do that to get the evil out, because the creative of, like, this morning, there's this documentary and I was contacted someone in England who's amazing, and the BBC, and I'm all and I'm like, sort of, I'd messaged them last night, I think, with this, because of Eh? Nope.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
Sounds good, but that's it. Not like sounds good here. This is what we can do.
Oh man.
So I don't get too depressed or angry, I go on the bike for an hour and a half.
All right, that's good. We keep you saying we're at our hour. Is there anything you want to let the folks know or promote? I know you got the book coming. When's that going to be?
I love how much, like, did we talk about anything specific that you actually wanted to?
Oh, dude, this is one of my favorite conversations so far. I love it, dude. I love it, man. Like,
shut up.
Yeah, I don't have too much intention with these other than just let's just shoot the shit, you know? And like,
it's always the best way.
Yeah.
I mean, I have, I've got, these catharsis books. The first poetry book is coming out. No date yet, because it's going to be this year, but it's the process of, it's not the rewriting, it's just the sending back and forth to make sure this is how you want it, because it's also a book that I want displayed that's part art as well. So the style is very important. Like when they had words like color that they wanted to change to the American, I was like, no. I'm Commonwealth. I want it spelt with a U. That's the way I spell color. And I understand the ellipses are not grammatically correct, nor is the dash, but it's a visual thing. So that's what is taking.
Yeah, everything has meaning and everything has purpose.
Yeah. But that'll come out, and then there's like, I know this film I did, the this wrestling film, which is fun. I think it's premiering in Montreal at the Fantasia Festival, I believe. And then all these other films, I just don't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you show up, do your job, and you wait for them to tell you when it's coming out. I mean, you got a bunch of stuff. Yeah, you got a bunch of stuff that's coming. So
hopefully, in like Boiling Point, you can't even watch it yet here, because I don't think it has it's not on a streaming service in America yet.
Yeah.
But so there's, like, again, I did 5 or 6 films. I know 2 of them. I don't know if 2 will see the light of day.
Yeah.
I don't have any faith. But other than that, it's the grind. I'm doing some Comic-Cons, actually, with the GTA guys. We haven't done any together in a while. But again, it gets me to Ireland, so then I can meet with everyone that I want to meet there.
Yeah. I that's what I love, when we all get on the road and we go do a movie. It's like I get to see all my friends because they're all spread out all over the world. It's awesome.
So that's, so as for, coming on Netflix or Amazon, April 23rd.
Well, coming daily. I would definitely, everybody check out the blog, because there's some awesome, beautiful stuff there. And then other than that, I'm gonna leave you with do whatever you want. No one gives a fuck.
Do whatever you want. No one gives a fuck.
Our show today was recorded in studio by the good folks at Record ATX. Check them out at recordatx.com. Our theme music is produced by Jonathan Price. You can check out some of the sounds he makes with his project, The Mid-Cities, on Spotify. Follow, subscribe, and smash that like button if you see one. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you guys next time.